We get pass-through reimbursements for housing the illegal immigrants here, but the enforcement piece is the critical piece that we really stand firmly for. And there's still a piece of that building that's available. Actually, it houses our library services. The federal government is interested in potentially leasing that balance of the building. The entire building will be under federal jurisdiction. We'll get additional revenue and additional enforcement officers here in Berks County. So we stand strongly against illegal immigrants. We're trying to help out as much as we can, working with the federal government.
One other quick thing. Eric mentioned this. The right way to do this is through the Sheriff's Department and through the program that was in place before President Obama shut it down. That is the proper way to do it. We don't have any direct law enforcement connection outside of our sheriff and district attorney. What we need is a new president.
Let me ask you a question. Did that answer your question? Is that basically what you were, okay, what were you looking for? Yeah, that's, if I understood your question, you were saying the federal government is putting people here temporarily until they determine whether or not they can stay here permanently or they have to go back to their home state. The same thing the commissioners are doing about it right now. They're listening to the federal government. They're maintaining the people there until they determine whether they have to go back to their home country or they can stay here. Is that your question now? Not as far. Yeah.
Okay, I already have a list, so I already know where they're coming. So are they getting background checks? And why aren't these houses, why aren't the federal government doing something about our veterans that are sleeping on the streets? Why don't they find a house for them? So I want to know, is there anything you can do to keep the federal government out of here? And about the immigrants.
So essentially, to answer your first question, my son was in the Marines when the illegals were coming in originally. They wanted to house them in Army camps and Marine camps. None of the facilities were suitable for that because they're for training. But they were looking at a number of different facilities. Right now, there's 3 facilities in the United States where they go. As far as what they're going to be doing in the future, I don't have that information. I don't know where they're going to be going or what they're going to be doing. I really can't answer that.
How can you say they're not prepared, sir?
I'm Margaret Smith, and it's very fortunate to meet you, Christian Leinbach. I think you remember I was talking to your office the other week about the sludge and stuff they're bringing down from Lebanon County. Now, you mentioned you want to be considerate. Are you going to be considerate enough to stop this in Berks County, not just Center Township, because we are all miserable about the situation? And you told me there is nothing you can do. But being considerate of the well-being of other people living around this stuff, it's getting out of hand. And the same with chicken houses. We're getting 4 of them just over the hill from us, like in our backyard. And I hope you're going to be considerate, all 3 of you, in fact. But I'd like to have your input on that, what you plan to do in the future. It is a health hazard, and we're fed up with it. We were born and raised on farms. We have nothing to do against farming. But what they're doing anymore is no wonder we have cancer if you study up on this subject. So I'm wondering what you consider to do about it in the near future. If you're going to ban it from Berks County, which is very, very important to the citizens there. If they take our tax money just like everybody else's, and we never have anything to say, and thank God for the patriots that I have the courage to go forward.
Well, let me say this. The question on sludge, I want all 3 to offer their comment, but I just want to put a footnote to that. I know that in Maiden Creek Township, they're putting human sludge so close to the Maiden Creek, and that's against federal law, that actually on a heavy rain, it can drain into the stream. There is a real health problem.
This issue has come up several times, and as I shared with you, DEP is the one that regulates sludge. There are standards in place. No one wants to hear that. But you also don't want county commissioners just jumping in arbitrarily and deciding this type of farming's okay, this type of farming isn't. When you deal with the issue of sludge, it is complex. I don't like it, but what we've looked at, and there's 3 cases I can think of right now. One over in Hereford Township, which is not sludge, it's a type of biomaterial that comes from Hatfield. We were begged to look into that. We did, looked in it in detail with our conservation district, with our ag department, with DEP, and it was viewed as legal and safe and meets the standards. The other case is Center, and then over in Marion Township. And I know there have been other cases. The issue, okay, that's a good point. Who wants to?
I know it's a constant struggle with the right for farmers to farm and produce a crop and turn a profit. By the same token, it impacts your life and your lifestyle. And we do receive complaints from time to time in our office, and we forward it to the proper authorities at DEP. We do follow through, but again, it's a tough one to manage because we don't have authority or control over DEP and the federal government, EPA. So I certainly sympathize with your concerns, but we're also a great agricultural community too. So chicken houses and pig farms and those sorts of things are what has made this county great. And I'm sorry for your challenge.
Regarding sludge, the way it works is the sludge is tested, especially human waste. It's tested before it's delivered to the area. My feeling is it should be tested at least quarterly or once a year on the farm, where it's laid, because it can build up over time. If it's found to be faulty, then they should treat that the same way they do any hazardous waste. The cost for that would be astronomical. So we should, the testing at the facility where it comes out should continue, but there should be a risk in case a year down the road, 2 years down the road, the lead content becomes too high. Or, like you said, it goes into Main Creek and puts some damage in there.
Okay, did Judge Paul Panapinto arrive yet? Yes. Okay, well, tell him what we'll do. We're okay with time. We'll take one more question from the audience for all 3 if anybody has any.
I got it right here.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
For all 3 of these, yes or no answer. Do you understand the doctrine of interposition? Start with you, Tom. Do you know? No? No? Christian?
Doctrine.
The doctrine of interposition. And the doctrine of interposition is where you inject yourself into a situation against a higher magistrate. You act as an advocate for the citizen. We do not have that in this country right now. We have the legislators on the state level are not going against the federal and so forth, and I'm going to cut it short. But the doctrine of interposition was used with Jefferson and Madison for the Kentucky Resolution and the Virginia Resolution. I would highly recommend you look at that.
I didn't know what it was called, but I already described it in my opening comments. I've been willing to stand up whenever I believe the state government, the federal government, or someone else in county government has overstepped their constitutional, legal, or moral boundaries. It's how we stand up that's important. But we need to do that, and I believe we need to start using the tools the left have been using for decades, and that is the courts. What they couldn't get through the legislative process, they have gotten over the last 50 years through the courts. We need to start to fight back, and that's why I've been so active with the waters of the U.S.
No further comment? Well, I'd like to thank these 3 gentlemen. That was a nice back and forth Q&A, and good luck to all 3. And thank you for attending. Okay, we got one final panel, but I should say panelists. We had, you recall this spring, we had candidates from the Republican Party running As an unendorsed candidate, Cheryl Allen and, gosh, Rebecca Mark, yes. And they decided to run in the primary, and they were defeated. Our candidate coming up now decided another strategy. Why should you be defeated in the primary when the party machinery puts all the money up for their three choices? So because of that, we now have a candidate running for the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, basically as an independent, and will be on the ballot. I will now introduce my dear friend, Judge Paul Penapinto.
Good evening, everyone. To all the patriots, thank you. I'm really glad to see you out here tonight. Everybody in Berks County. I love Berks County. I've been coming here, I guess, many times that I've been running. And I did run in several primaries, unendorsed by the Republican Party. You all know that I've been a Republican all my life, but I made a decision. And the decision was made in the interest of the people. It really was, because I didn't change my stripes. I just decided that the people need a choice, and the people need someone to run who comes from the people. So what I did, and first of all, let me say something. I have to mention this first. Let me thank all of you, because you kind of started this thing, because in the back here, if you recall, you signed and came out very forcefully to sign my petitions to get on the ballot as an independent. So I want to thank you. It was a great turnout that night, and I got a lot of, not only did I get signatures here, a lot of you took my petitions and sent me the signatures in the mail later, and I thank you very much for that. When I started, I really didn't know what the grassroots results would be, because no one thought that I would get the 16,639 signatures needed. And you know, if you just got the minimum number, they try to knock you off the ballot. But I went ahead and got over 30,000 signatures, and it was great. We had many, many volunteers, because people do know and are a little disgusted with the party nomination process. Believe me, it's not fair. Now, it's no sour grapes. It's just that there's few picking the choices and making the choices, and it's not fair to everybody. Now, you know you all have the right to vote in a primary, but if you lose the primary, you can't run in the general. So I decided to bypass the primary and see who was nominated. And I saw folks nominated less qualified, to be very honest with you. I'm talking about experience, qualifications. And I don't think that's right. So I decided to place my name and go around this state, and in 40 counties, we obtained the required number of signatures plus double. So no one challenged our petitions, and we're on the ballot for November. And now there's a decision. There are 3 Democrats, 3 Republicans, and 1 independent, and that's myself. So, what do you know about me? Well, you know my record, and I think everybody should know. I have 25 years experience as a judge. I've been faithful to the Constitution and the rule of law. I'm a pro-life candidate. I've been married to my wife, Nancy, for 38 years. We have 2 children. I follow the Constitution. I am strong on the Second Amendment. It's our constitutional right, the Second Amendment. And I believe guns are not the problem, it's bad people that use guns in the wrong way. And that's really what the problem is. They should not take away our constitutional rights, because there's criminals out there using guns improperly and hurting people. And you know, I work in criminal court now. The criminals, they have to go away. I just don't want to keep them on the street doing bad things to good people. I also want to say, in terms of my philosophy, that I've always been strong for the people. Because it's who we serve, and it's where the power comes from. So I understand what's going on in all the communities. I worked in the criminal, in the civil, and in the family division. So I have the experience and the integrity for the job of Justice of Pennsylvania, but I need your support. I need your help in this election to go out and make sure you vote for me on November 3rd. I don't know if this is fine.
You were giving the candidates 3 minutes, but in your case, you have no one else here but you. We got plenty of time. You just stay right here. You can offer more comment, or we can start taking Q&A.
Let me say to you, this challenge that I'm making is a big one, and I'll tell you why. No one was ever elected in Pennsylvania as an independent. There's 3 seats open. I'm asking for 1 vote. Just think about what that'll do. That'll open the door for other independents. That'll tell the political parties, both of them, that we are not going to stand for you picking all of our candidates. We're making a choice. And it also is going to show everybody in the nation, because this is the only race in the United States for Supreme Court. There's no other race in the country that I am not beholden to politicians, and politics does not belong in our courts. And I am not owned by any party. I am not obligated to any party chairman, any political person. And by the way, you're all invited to the swearing in. When I win, just come and say I'm a patriot. You saw me here in Berks County, and no politicians are invited. Lastly, ask yourself, ask yourself a question. Why should a judge be Republican or Democrat? Why shouldn't you just run on your character, moral principles, your education and experience? And you vet the candidates. You may not like one or the other. You have a choice. But you don't need to have a label. And politics labels people. And then it becomes a fight, the Democrats against the Republicans. Why? When you come in front of me in court, I hear the case, the facts, the law, and the evidence. And I make a fair decision. It's painful sometimes. I could be wrong, but I do my best every day to do what's right. So what does Republican or Democrat have to do with it? If you know Paul Panapinto and you research my decisions, and you research and look to find out about me, you will find in a very fair way that I have made decisions based on the law, the evidence, and the Constitution. I've been overturned, and sometimes the liberal judges on the appellate court don't like something, but I heard the gentleman talk about making law, and that's what we're not supposed to do, and that's what they do. And it overturns the laws that the legislature and the people want. We have a very serious election coming up, and for no other reason, just to send a message. And if you don't feel you should vote for me, that's one thing, but just to send the right message out there, we need to get out and work hard to get our fellow citizens the information about my candidacy so I can be elected. And I certainly will be back here anytime you invite me. I don't know if any other Supreme Court justice ever comes back, but I'll come back. As long as you have a civic meeting and not a political one. How's that? Questions? Whatever I can help you with in a question, or I can keep talking. It's up to you.
What's your opinion on jury nullification?
Jury what?
Nullification.
What do you mean by nullification?
Nullification is when the jury renders a verdict based on their conscience instead of the judge's instructions.
When the jury renders a decision, I follow it. I mean, I have to say it's the jury's decision. I haven't nullified a jury decision except in one case. They made an award for $200 million. And I said, no way. It shocks the conscience of the court to make that high of an award to the plaintiffs. And I did not enter the verdict. I told the lawyers I'm going to overturn the verdict. and it's called a judgment notwithstanding the verdict. And I said I would do that. It was on a Thursday, and I told them I'm going to hold the case, and Monday, they better come up with a solution. We're getting into trial.